As we move forward, just to touch on the validators forum, we'll likely look to expand it and increase the security of the validation that's happening as we move forward. I mean, the Hedera network is so cost effective that adding additional validators to the swarm to do that is, you know, um, it's a must. Like, why wouldn't you do something like that, right? So I think as we move forward, we're really excited with what we see in the space.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point too, because if you look at the governing council within the Hedera network, it's kind of been the same iteration of different companies from different kind of sects of like global finance, or it may be legal, or it may be there's a number of different things. I did want to kind of touch base on the decentralized public service. So can you touch base on why no native token within Hashport? Because I know it's more of just a service for the ecosystem and for interoperability within other ecosystems as well.
Yeah, again, everything was born out of this concept of best practices and principles first. And obviously, when you're a new interop solution, the most important thing I think is obviously security and integrity of the platform. Over the past year, I think it's something like $2.3 billion have been compromised across interop solutions. It's the number one target of breaches. And so, adding a token to the mix for us right out of the gate just didn't seem like something that was necessary from a security standpoint. We also do minting and burning of tokens. We don't have dual-sided liquidity, so having a token, there could be some novel use cases to it. Don't get me wrong. It's just that it didn't add a great deal to what we were trying to do in terms of the service we're offering to the broader ecosystem.
Totally. And then I know you kind of ran through like what the process is kind of from a technical standpoint. What's the process? Say I've launched a project on Ethereum or Polygon. What do I need to know about Hashport from wanting to kind of bridge over or interoperate with the Hedera network? Is there MetaMask connectivity? Like, what does it look like for me as a project? Like, where do I start to potentially want to bridge out into Hedera?
Sure. There's a lot of interesting things, obviously, on that front that both Hedera is doing, as well as the community, as well as our platform itself, looking to always make that an easier and easier process. With respect to wallet integration, so we do have MetaMask integrated. We also have Blade Wallet and HashPack, both two Hedera-based wallets that are connected, as well as Venly, which is sort of an intermediary step between doing, fully decentralized and semi-permissioned sort of wallets where you can recover via email, etc. So yeah, if you're a prospective platform that's on another network, they can always reach out to us on Twitter or via our support email, or even to me directly through all of the different channels, whether that's Telegram or the Discord, and connect. And basically, we are able to integrate tokens from our supported networks fairly quickly for them. So if they're looking to come into the ecosystem, it doesn't take very long for us to do that. And we collaborate with platforms all the time, more and more so. Now we're seeing a lot of increased interest in Hedera as time's gone on. And so yeah, it's just they obviously when users come from say an external network such as Ethereum or Polygon, they would connect their MetaMask with their tokens. If the token's supported on Hashport, they right now, as it stands, will subsequently need to also connect, either Blade or HashPack for the porting process. It's much in the same way, kind of like how the porting would work for like in the Solana ecosystem. You obviously have to have like a wallet like Phantom or something like that to connect into the interops as well as like a MetaMask. But going forward, one of the cool things that Hedera is working on is obviously EVM equivalents and integrations like that. So once that happens, as soon as we're able to, I would love to be able to have it so that users that are on MetaMask can simply stay on MetaMask and just add the RPC. There's inklings of that happening right now. Don't know exactly when that'll be, but we'd love to. Anytime we can make it, our mandate is to make it as painless as possible to move assets and to move between ecosystems. So that's what we'll try to do.
What are the assets that you've seen really kind of take a have the most interest, or be I guess I should say that are being used the most after kind of bridging out into or interoperating with Hedera? Would it be something like
Yeah,
USD or
yeah,
wrapped Bitcoin? Or I would
yeah,
imagine.
yeah. Great questions. I mean, it's interestingly enough, if you were to take a look at a lot of, and this won't always stay this way, but if you were to take a look at a lot of the interops that are out there, it's invariably the larger assets that typically come across. So you're looking at your USDC, your USDT, DAI, wrapped Bitcoin, wrapped ETH, and then it gradually, progresses downward from there. But I think as time goes on, and you have anomalies like when we integrated Dovu, they're headlong into building on Hedera, and they're building out all their infrastructure and everything there. And so bringing across, both the circulating and non-circulating supply is something that they're going to need to do. So back in April of last year, which was sort of the precursor to DeFi on Hedera, it was one of the only like real impulses we had because they were one of the first projects, obviously, to connect. And at the time, there wasn't, Saucer Swap or Heli Swap or anything in the ecosystem at that point in time. So it really was about, you know, they were bringing their Dove tokens across, but then they had their own native staking service set up there, and that's pretty much all that came across at the time. As we see more protocols and platforms being built on Hedera, much like on a lot of these other L1, L2 networks, the same process is going to repeat. You're going to get a significant amount of volume that's going to be interested in interacting and trying out these new platforms and services.
And I would imagine that we're certainly going to see, I would expect to see an influx of things going the opposite way, where you really want to kind of have Hedera spread out in these other ecosystems as well, which I think is going to be super exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think that too. When you talk to platforms and services that are on Hedera, they're native based. It's invariably a question is, how do we get into other ecosystems to be able to, attract users and also expand platforms? Because, as we've talked about, the future of Web3 is not going to be chain specific. It's going to be multi-directional. It's going to, you're going to have many different users and user bases. So I think being able to do that. The one thing that's nice about on Hashport with building natively on Hedera with HTS tokens is it's just right now, at least, it's a sort of a spoken wheel, in the sense that from Hedera you can get to any of the connected networks and plug in. So if you're a Hedera builder, you can connect to all of our supported L1, L2 networks really quickly, and it's really clean. So you can mint your supply on Hedera, and then from there you can have any number of subset of tokens on these other networks that can at any time be burnt and unlocked for the native HTS version. It just makes it very clean in that sense.
Would you expect kind of that from an NFT standpoint? I don't know, do you guys have now kind of the I try to avoid the word blockchain when we're talking about Hedera as much as possible, but is there cross-chain aspects within NFTs that are occurring right now, or is that functionality that
Yeah, so we've been working on the NFT functionality for quite some time. That's actually just like we're just about ready for most of that. And yeah, there are design considerations with that. Keeping the integrity of metadata structures between networks, especially when you know blockchain or EVM versus non-EVM, or at the time we're non-EVM. So like we adhere to the NFTs that will ultimately be able to be migrated from Hedera to these other networks would need to be HIP 412 compatible or following that standard. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see NFT projects be able to migrate their assets into and out of Hedera. Granted, I think we're still in the early days with the NFT functionality, in the sense that there's quite a few additional features and functions that would left to be needed for those things. I really think long-term NFT migrations between networks is something that's going to be kind of in the background, and it's kind of going to be something that a Web3 gaming user, for instance, is not even going to see. They're just going to want to know that their, metaverse assets in this game, I'm now putting in this game, and as a result, it's got to get tracked and all sorts of stuff. And in order to do that, maybe it has to get moved in the background via API or something. That's obviously ways way out. We'd love to be working on all sorts of stuff like that. So, anytime we can collaborate with community partners that would like to build things, we're always listening.
So I have to ask you
Sure.
lastly here. You guys have accomplished so much since launching in November of 2021. 2022 was a monster to get through. But when I talk to real builders, they're just focused on building anyways. So it's really not that big of an issue. I guess my question to you would be, what plans that Hashport has right now? I always try to reach in and get a little bit of stuff that hasn't been announced.
Some alpha.
Yeah. What are you most excited about for Hashport in 2023?
Yeah, to be honest, it's all been sort of one contiguous or just constant build from the get-go, and it's just really one week after another adding features, functionality, services, networks, tokens, and doing it in a fundamental first principles way in terms of what we think our best practices should be. In terms of information, my marketing team will kill me if I ruin all of their good work. I will say that there are networks that are imminent that will be launching shortly, and there will be likely many more to come throughout the year if we have our say. And also, much of the same of what we've been doing, which is trying to get. We now have a full service API suite with full documentation and everything. And so, you'll see that as well with Pangolin launching on Hedera, and they have their bridge swap service. So they're one of the first platforms to integrate via our API. So they'll be leveraging Hashport to be able to users, if they go to bridge swap, will be able to move assets onto Hedera via bridge swap. And do some interesting things too, right? That hasn't even been able to be done before. Like, I believe, maybe I'm misquoting, but I believe I know my stuff here. I think you'll be able to move assets across, and at the same time, they will do a swap for you. So if you're a user coming into Hedera and you don't have any HBAR yet, you could bring some across, and they will do a nominal swap as well at the same time. Or you could just swap out of one asset into HBAR, and they will do it via their DEX and everything in the background, which is really cool. That hasn't been attempted before, but I think that will be. Many of the areas of focus that I have are on how do we make it as easy as possible to leverage Hashport and use it, and have users use it without even knowing they're using it. So, more integrations with aggregators, more integrations on backends of services where it's just the user is comfortable with the given platform they're using, and they can just get from point A to point B as quickly as possible with as little fanfare as possible. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, well, I think this has been an amazing interview, Jesse. I wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy day today. We will definitely be publishing this and driving all the links so you can check out Hashport if you're not aware of the services right now when we publish this. And Jesse, it's been a pleasure, and looking forward to doing this again in a few months whenever we can talk about some of the alpha that I was trying to pull out.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Maybe next time we'll organize some alpha drop just for you, King.
Oh, you're good.
And I'll get the team on board ahead of time. I got chastised the last time I decided to drop some alpha myself, and they had been working on a bunch of stuff. So yeah, I mean, always happy to be on here. Thanks for having us, and would love to be back anytime.
All right, thanks, Jesse.